Hi everyone, it's been a second since I've done one of these. I've been feeling very uninspired recently, but then I got the idea, or at least watch a video where people personify either zodiac signs or flowers or something else. So I thought to myself, alright, how would I do it with a polar bear? So that's the idea behind this video, and I think going forward, that's what I'll do. I'll try to do personified people. I feel like that could be a lot of fun. In this case, I wanted to go for a very angry, cold polar bear mother. So here I'm trying to figure out a angle. This time I also, and I'll show it up on screen somewhere, but I did a few sketches and just thought boarded a lot of ideas for how the character could look, her outfits, her designs. I wanted to have a really clear idea going in here, and I think I did have it overall. And one thing I've also been trying to get better at is just eyes. So here I'm kind of messing around and saying, alright, what looks cold? How big can I make her eyes so she still looks angry? How big can I make the head? Do the eyes go up? Do the eyes go down? One of the features I really wanted on her face was A, the red lipstick, and B, the beauty mark. I felt like that would add a bit of flair to her character. I'm just trying a lot of different ideas here for the head. I'm trying to see, okay, if the eyes are this big, then how big would the head have to be? If I move the eyes up here, then the head will have to move there. This head was very, what is the word? Rectangle. The top one's more square and the bottom one's more rectangle, and I didn't want a very tall head. So here again, I'm just trying to do different ideas, and I stick with this one, so then I move on next to trying to figure out a hairstyle. It's more of a draft since she's gonna have a hat on to try to get the polar bear feel down. But for right now, I'm just trying to think, okay, as far as hair is concerned, for where her eyes go, where her hair is going, which way works. And I think maybe if I do it another time, I can give her an eye patch instead, but the idea was that you don't want to mess with her, and I even end up later on giving her an eye patch as well. But here right now, and you can see as well, lowering or removing one layer makes her eyes look so much more serious than they did before, which I found really surprising. Now going in here, I'm trying to figure out a different hairstyle, I'm trying to figure out the eyes, and slowly but surely I'm getting that cold, very dead inside look that I'm going for. Which is great. That's the whole point of this. I'm trying to figure out a good hairstyle that frames the face right, and I end up going with that wispy kind of look. And then from there, I'm going and I'm trying to find the angle I'm looking at with a reference photo and trying to see, okay, if I were to translate this into pixel art, how would it look like from that angle? And it didn't go as well as I thought initially. The issue is with pixel art, at least this small that I'm doing, as I'm trying to go for as small as possible, and the angle just didn't work out right. I think because her eye is so small, it doesn't look quite right, at least to me. I don't think I'm at that skill yet. And once I have the angle of her head here, I'm trying to figure out, okay, her head's here, how about her clothing? How does the clothing look? And I get really stumped. I think I might have to fast forward a little bit, but here I'm trying to figure out, okay, how can I approach drawing the clothing bit? How can I approach drawing her cloak? As the idea behind is that she's wearing this big, fluffy, furry coat, and she's a polar bear, and the idea is that you take the attributes of the animal or object that you're using and you're trying to humanize it. So in this case, it's a humanized polar bear, and the idea is, I'm thinking Russian, strict, angry, thick accent will crush you like tiny brick, things like that. And I go and try to do just blobbing things down, but it didn't work, so instead I did a sketch method where I go in and add the actual sketch feel of it, and this part works. It gives me a frame to work off of. So here I'm just doing a sketch and an outline, and then I'm trying to figure out the dress, I'm trying to figure out the hat and the little bear ears that I'll add later on, and realizing I didn't like the way the head was tilted, I instead went to do her face forward. And then after that, I'm messing around with the eyes a little bit more as I'm trying to see, okay, I like how I have the eyes normally or currently, but maybe I can modify a little bit. Maybe I can make her head tilted or her face tilted, and would that work? If I show off more of this side, would that work better? I maybe add the neck and the posing, and I add the fur bits and everything. Does that help? It didn't, so I'm just trying to do a lot of different ideas and a lot of different feels. Initially, I tried to draw just the coat itself, and it came out really weird. I didn't like how it looked, so I'm just trying to go at a different angle so you can kind of see it. Looks a little wonky, it looks very stiff, and I didn't like the stiff feel. So instead, I decided to do something bare bone. I gave her a very thin dress, as if it hugged her body a little bit more to help show the frame off more, as I wanted it to have a very feminine feel, a very angry feminine feel. Since her hands are on her hips as well, that was another key feature in the pose itself. But here I'm just trying to see, okay, her hands are here, I now just need to connect the arms and the shoulders, and how would I do that? So instead of trying to imagine her already wearing the coat, I instead just imagine it as a sleeveless dress as a different way to approach it. As I had an easier time doing it this way. Instead, now I'm just trying to carve out her arms instead of trying to think of right clothing. I go back a little bit instead of trying to think of how the clothing would look on her body. Instead, it's just, all right, if it were just arms, how will the arms be? And then from there, then you can do clothing on top of the arms. But for right now, it's just body. And after that, it's just a matter of, right, shaving down a few pixels here, adding a few pixels there, and going everywhere and trying to figure out how it can look. Here, I'm having a bit of an issue with her legs and her feet, trying to figure out how much leg to show, how much foot to show, and I can't figure it out. So in the end, I just make the dress longer. It's like trying to hide the arms behind the back, since who's gonna know? Nobody's gonna know. If you're an artist, though, you would figure it out, and let's just keep this a secret between you and me. That works out, doesn't it? After that, and I figure out her arms, now I go and add the fluffy bits that go around the hands and the bottom of the dress and the top of her neck. Now I'm kind of trying to go on top, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe I don't have to make the coat big on her arms. Maybe I just make her arms the coat. I feel like that adds a bit better to the framing itself. Well, there's a lot of things I try to do when I'm figuring out sprites. One of them is a silhouette, and the other one is just overall shape. I guess that's a silhouette. The silhouette and the color values. That's why you see me switching to black and white a lot. Just often I go back and forth between seeing if the values work together and everything, and if the silhouette looks right. For example, with her arms, if I made her arms thicker, it'd be hard to tell that they're arms. I'm just going in and trying to add, okay, does her hat need to be taller? Does that frame the silhouette better? Does it make it look more like a hat? And I think to myself, no. So I make the hat the small size it is, and now I'm trying to figure out her hair. This was the tricky part is, again, I drew the sketches of the hair, but I wasn't sure what it was going to be in the final end. It was just ideas that I'm jotting down that I can reference later. But after that, I then go in, let's see. I'm just trying to figure out the eyes still as the eyes. The eyes gave me a lot of issues. The ideas that one is covered, as I think that adds a little bit of mystique and flair. But the thing is, when you do hair at least, you want the hair to feel similar. For example, there's a swoosh in the front of her hair. So I thought, okay, I'll add a swoosh in the back of her hair to make it look like it's the same hair type, but it didn't feel right. The hairstyle I end up going with also doesn't feel right, but right now it works and it's fine, and you can see me here as well messing with the values and trying to make sure everything pops out and you can tell the difference. One issue was that because the dress is tan, or the coat, because the coat's tan and her hands are also pale, I call them maybe like a pale pink or pale yellow. I'm not too sure the specific ones in that one, but they blend in, and the values I'm currently going with are so close together that it makes everything hard to pop out. In the end, I end up swapping the tan with the white, since while uploading the stream schedule, I got a lot of people asking why was the brown and the white swapped, and for me it was because of values, but in the end, I swapped them back. I go back and swap it back. Did that right before recording this. So you'll see it when we get there. After this, though, I'm trying to figure out the fur part of her fur coat, and I'm having trouble. I realized that the fur is not wool. It's not a wool texture, it's a fur texture. It's not a sheep, it's a bear. So instead I go for a tube-ish feel around her body, something that's a little bit more strict. I'm taking a lot of references, at least when it comes to pixel art from Pokemon, and I might show the image I'm looking at on screen, but it was just polar bear Pokemon. And from there I'm just trying to figure out, okay, and maybe add a little bit of dithering here to show that it's round. I can't really add a fur texture because of how small this sprite is. I just try to make it small and simple, and here I'm adding a little bit of hearts and bear features. For example, there's a little paw print on her coat, and her ears are also little hearts to show off that, she might be cold on the outside and also on the inside, but she is cold. The hearts are meant to show a little bit of cuteness and a little bit of a hint towards something sweeter. Because she's a cold, mean woman, but she's a loving mother. I've did some research into polar bears, not too much, but mothers, and they're sweet, and they're intelligent, and they're also apex predators. Again, which is why I tried to make her as cold and angry as possible while still trying to keep that layer of elegance to her. I wanted to make her a sort of wine mom, let's say, can and definitely will probably poison your drink if you're not looking, that sort of thing. After that, I go in and I think start with the outline. I remember the outline for the hair, so difficult. And here I'm just trying different hairstyles as again, I thought about, okay, maybe the spiky hair can point to her being angry or mean or dangerous. You get that spiky feeling, you think, okay, let's stay back. That was the idea behind the whoosh of the hair, but I don't think that translated well. I didn't like how it looked as far as the silhouette was concerned and how it's flaring out, and I couldn't get the curve to look right. I even tried making her hair not have an outline to maybe possibly make it feel better, but that didn't work. So in the end, I just gave up on the hair for now. I'll come back to it later and I work on the shaded outline. So it's the outline of the different colors and then try to keep inside or in mind the light. That light's coming from the right. So everything on the right should be brighter and then everything on the left to add a bit of pop to everything. And that about does it for this version of the sprite. I then on the next day go back and make a few modifications that I think had a nice feel. So here what I'm doing is I'm just taking random colors and then I'm swapping the palette. I'm going from that tan to white and white to tan. And the idea behind that is to make her feel more polar bear-ish, and I definitely think that was a change for the better. I didn't think it would make too much of a change, and I thought it would be very difficult to make it feel different. And you can see as well I add pearl earrings for her very flare of elegance, but my issue was that the hands on the white dress was what I had an issue with the contrast. Then I realized if this is a very elegant woman, she probably has gloves on. And if you look at a polar bear's paw, it's black. Technically, I should have also made her feet black. Maybe I'll go back after this video's done and see about making her shoes black. But I think that adds a nice bit of contrast. The black gloves, because the black paw is another hint to the animal, but might not get it unless you actually look at a polar bear. The tan idea came from the colors I've seen of polar bears. It's kind of white, sometimes tan, either or, and you can see here again I'm trying to mess with the hair a little bit, and I think I definitely like this a lot better than before. I'm also going back and adding a little bit of shading here, and I think it's more conserved, it's more contained than the wild wispy hair, and I kind of think it gets a bun. That's the idea, is that it's a big bun in the back, maybe a big circular bun. But that is that for the polar bear mother of polar bear to human idea. Maybe I can draw the cubs next or something else, but initially I was doing a theme for the characters, but I think I'm going to try to get better at doing personifications and character design itself. I think that could be a lot of fun. So if you have a favorite animal or object, tell me in the comments below and I'll give it a try. I'm thinking there's some bird species I want to do, maybe owl or flamingo. You're going to see a lot of birds in the future. Thank you, Colonel, for being a Patreon member of mine. On there, I have assets to previous pixelarts I've done and other previous time lapses. Without further ado, I will be going and I'll be seeing about maybe making her feet black. And I'll see you all later. Goodbye.